Okay, thank you very much. My name is Robin Gunter. I'm the Executive Director of Instructional Technology here in Richardson ISD. Thank you all for making it to our building here and spending some time with us today. We had some really great discussions this morning in our rotations, some really high level, some really makes you think of some of the changes we could make in education, or that we should make in education. And so when I was asked to present on challenges and innovations, I'll be really honest with you, mine are more down here. We're still working to get up here along with some of those discussions we had. So just temper your expectations today as we go through these. So just a really quick overview of Richardson to give you some perspective. We have around 36,000 students. We talked in some of our rotations. We do have declining population. We had over 37,000 just a few years ago. They're all moving to Van Alstyne, supposedly. We have 50 schools. We did 2 years ago close 4 elementary schools, so we have consolidated some of that as well. We are urban suburban, and we span 3 cities. So while we are Richardson ISD, and a lot of us are located in the city of Richardson, we also have schools in Garland, and we have schools in Dallas. So that comes with, some challenges and some benefits within itself. My personal background, I have been in education for 28 years. All 28 years have been in Richardson ISD, where I also graduated and went to school myself, so didn't make it far. I have served as a teacher, a librarian. I was a teacher at the junior high level. I was a librarian at the junior high and high school level. I moved into library services centrally before moving over to technology, where I've been for the last 13 years in various roles. I report to the CTO. For those of you that have instructional technology in your district, it looks different, and I don't think that there's a right answer. Much like I say, there's not a perfect learning management system. I'm not sure that there is a perfect structure to instructional technology. We fall under the larger technology. We partner with operations and infrastructure regularly, and then we build those relationships over into T&L so that we have that content connection as well. So that is a little bit about me and our district. Now, we're going to take a second, and if you will, if you have a Post-it or if you have a piece of paper or something that you're taking notes on, I want you to think for about 30 seconds, and I want you to write down what is a challenge and an innovation for you, because we have all different types in this room. I'm looking at this through the lens of instructional technology, but you are going to come with your own lens. So if you will, just jot down your one innovation, one challenge that you think of immediately. So the reason I asked you to do this ahead of time is I'm going to share some of the challenges and innovations that I see in our district with technology. And I don't want to skew your thoughts, because I want to make this interactive at the end and hear some of what you came up with as well. I will be really honest with you. When I was first asked to do this, I was like, okay. Also, I'm an Enneagram 6 for any of you that study the Enneagram, so we always come at it from everything is wrong and bad and the world's going to end. So I was like, let me jot down my thoughts. And my challenges column was really long. And I had to stop and think, what is an innovation? I mean, we're not doing everything wrong. So what is an innovation? Because honestly, especially after we did these rotations, that word is very intimidating to me. Innovation to me seems like something really big that we are doing that is on the bleeding edge. I mean, we had a lot of bleeding edge conversations in these rotations. And so I really had to step back for a second, and I asked my trusty friend, co-pilot, to define innovation in technology. And so forgive me for reading to you. At its core, innovation in technology refers to the creation and application of new or improved technologies, tools, systems, or processes that bring about meaningful advancements. And I was like, okay, we're probably doing some things, especially with processes, love a good process, that might be considered innovation. So what I did is I looked at my list and I looked at the big topics and I narrowed it down to 3 and I thought, what are we doing well? What is a little bit innovative? And then what is still a challenge? And I really think when we go through this list, none of it is going to surprise you. And so I look forward to the end when you share out some of what you wrote down as your innovations and challenges. So brace yourself for the first one, guys. I'm sure this is going to shock you. Artificial intelligence. Isn't it even a professional learning if you don't mention it these days? Everything. So yes, I think that was the first thing that came to mind, obviously, especially when I was coming to the Learning Council, because I think we always have those really big conversations. In the last couple of years, AI has been threaded through all of them. So we're going to start with the innovations that I believe that we are doing here in Richardson ISD. So the first thing that we are doing is we have had an AI advisory board, and we have done that for 2 years. Because 2 years ago, when you talked about artificial intelligence, everybody was like, you better have some guidelines. You better have your AI guidelines, and you better have them spelled out and posted and in the handbook and everything. Okay, so we gathered our AI advisory board together. It included central staff and campus staff. In fact, our own Dr. Bolak is on that committee, and she helped us craft that. And what we decided in RISD, maybe a little innovative at the time, is that we weren't going to write guidelines specific to AI. We were going to wrap them into what we already had. And sometimes that was just including AI next to something. Our AI advisory board also helped us last year pilot some student tools for AI. Talked about that in some of our rotations, and I heard Dr. Bolak talking about it in some of her rotations about identifying those student tools, piloting them, and then making a decision. So that group helped us do that. Guidance on use, I touched on that a little bit. We wrapped that into our student handbook. We updated our responsible use guidelines just to include AI. It is a tool. District tools, also touched on that. Identifying those district tools. I think at this point, what we are doing is we are firming up what it looks like for staff versus students. What does staff have access to, and what do students have access to? And then finally, training and support. Our specialist team has been on this since day one in training our teachers and our staff on using AI tools and using them well. Much like all of you, we started that with productivity. What can we do to make the teachers, the staff, make their lives easier? That productivity. That was getting our foot in the door, and then we lowered our shoulder and went on in for student use. Now for the challenges around AI. If I have to have one more conversation about kids are using it to cheat, I've never been so glad that school started, so I didn't have to have that conversation anymore back to school learning. This is a huge one for us right now. Everybody wants us to buy a tool that will detect the cheating. There is no tool. And I think that goes back to some of the discussions we had in our roundtable, that maybe we need to change how we're doing things before we find a tool that fixes it. And then understanding the tools that have AI features. I think when our staff and our teachers say we want to use AI, they're very focused on using a tool when we're all using AI already. Many of the tools that they are using, not just for technology, but for curriculum and instruction, have AI embedded in them. They just don't know it. I'm not even sure some of them know that their streaming platforms have it built in, or that Amazon has it built in. But having that full understanding of those AI features. Did anybody have AI on their list? Oh, good. Okay. Okay, second one that I came across was district resources, which sounds kind of vague. And what does that mean? Well, let's start with the innovations around district resources. Richardson ISD has a wealth of resources. We are resource rich, as we like to say. Instructional technology buys resources. Teaching and learning, every core content buys resources. There are resources specific to certain learning groups, like maybe your special student services, your student services. We are resource rich. So one of the innovations that we have put in place around that is a purchasing process. We are trying to get away from that shiny tool that maybe has a 7-day trial that we're giving all the information away just because it sounds exciting. So we have put in a solid purchasing process that not only includes technology, it includes purchasing, legal department. Our area superintendents are a part of that. Teaching and learning is a part of that. So all of us have a say when somebody is looking at purchasing something, because like I said, going back to the resource-rich district, we want to make sure that we're not duplicating resources. We don't have the funds to just buy a tool, all the tools that do one thing. So looking at the funding, and then looking at if it is standards aligned, and who's going to troubleshoot it, who's going to provide the professional learning on it. We're really trying to look at that big picture when we're purchasing something, not just the district, but also campuses at the campus level. Also includes special funding. We have some PTA groups that are great in raising funds, and so they want to buy all the tools as well. Reining that in and making sure that we're aligning even their purchases with our bigger goals. App vetting. If any of you are in technology, you, I'm sure, have read a terms of service agreement, the click wrap, all of that. We have managed to put in a good process within our solid purchasing process where we are looking at those terms of service. RSD Legal comes in and really backs us up on that as well. And then I talked a little bit about the quality district resources being resource rich. And, you know, we have to remind everybody occasionally that we do have resources that do those things. So where are our challenges? Funding and software costs. I'm sure most of you don't have that problem. We fund all of our technology through bond in Richardson ISD, and we're about to have another bond election in November. And so we have done a lot of educating around the resources that we're purchasing. And our software costs at a minimum are going up 10%, at a maximum are going up 200%. So
who's driving that? Like, what companies are going up that much?
Some of it is legit, because some of it is still independently owned companies that are really improving their product. They're listening to customer feedback. So I'm not going to say that it is all not, you know, that it's not all worth it, but I think it's, I don't know. I don't know. I probably have some.
Let's have a later conversation.
Yeah, yeah. And as I like to tell everybody, that is list price. We always have those discussions with our vendors about that. But when you're just looking at that list price, and like I said, we fund through bonds. So we are very cognizant about making multi-year agreements. So if you think about it, if we haven't made an agreement with the companies for 5 years, because we paid for 5 years at once, you would see a little bit of that increase. Not 200%, but a little bit of it. Challenges, continuing to be circumventing those district resources. I think one of my passions as technology is around that data privacy and where we're sharing student data. And so that really kind of hurts when we're just out there having kids create accounts and all the resources. Screen time concerns. I really thought about this one a lot when we were in the rotation about the one Matt did about human intelligence, or no, generation alpha, and how they learn. And we talked at our table about how staff and teachers don't play to or use those to our advantage. They're the way they learn or the way they think and their skills. But we really have a lot of discussions in our district about screen time and how kids are using that device. And that is not just coming from technology, that is coming from our stakeholders as well. Our parents are very cognizant of the screen time. Yes, ma'am.
Is that an unawareness of how much is passive versus active?
Yes.
By the teachers not being able to quantify back to parents? Because if you knew active versus passive, that's a different ballgame.
Yes, I would agree with you. And we're going to talk a little bit about that communication with parents. But look, now I'm going to come to you, Lauren. Do you think that do you think it's a misunderstanding of teachers knowing the difference between passive and active in education?
I think it probably includes a lot of different components. I think some of it is the expectation around meeting intervention minutes. And so we're putting kids on programs to meet those minutes. And so that's that middle ground. It's not necessarily passive or active, but it's not the way that we would anticipate using those tools. And then it becomes easy to use that too frequently. And then I would say sometimes if we're not giving teachers good feedback in the classrooms, and we're not as leaders inspecting what we expect, then it becomes easy to use the tool as a babysitter. But as an instructional leader, if you are in the classroom, modeling those expectations and praising and celebrating the way that it's designed, then I'm probably not articulating it very well. But I would say that if you're keeping it at the forefront, if you're consistently reminding teachers of the expectation of effective use of technology, then we can get there.
Thank you.
Yeah, Robin, isn't this also sort of like a unique to the big resource itself? Because some of them are being remedial and blah, blah.
So we kind of extend it to 3 different types in Richardson that we're educating around. It's the passive. We all understand that. It's the educational, where there is some educational value, but it's still a little bit on the passive side. You're still receiving information. And then the productive, which is where we would like for people to spend the bulk of their screen time. And when we talk about screen time minutes, we're really talking about that more passive educational side as well. And I'm thinking more of what you said about informing parents. And so I'm going to talk about that in just a minute.
Yeah, good. I want to just give a shout out to Matt really quick. Matt, aren't there programs that can tell the school district how much is active versus passive by student on the network? Like if they're just sitting staring at the screen versus actually actively typing things, moving the cursor.
Yeah.
I'm going to bring you the mic. Hold on.
Yeah, there are some systems that can actually monitor the how much they're using a particular instructional software. Getting down to the very granular level of actually learning is different. This is more of just.
I'm talking cursor movement using the keyboard, passive versus active.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it can show that it's doing it, but it doesn't mean it's actually actively involved in the program itself yet.
But there's nothing that's like cross all apps.
No.
Riding on the network.
No.
Well, for shame on technology. For shame, right?
Not yet.
Nobody's giving you the real hint, right?
Next project.
Okay, one other comment then before I give you the mic back. My experience with that screen time concern, just nationally, and I saw this especially in San Antonio. Remember this, Matt? The richest districts who have parents, if you guys are middle class or rich, the parents succeeded in life. They'll fight you on screen time because they had books. And the poorer districts are all in on everything. They don't care. They want everything you can get. Am I right? Okay, good. All right, here you go.
Parents went to the board and they can only have 10 minutes of screen time, tech time a day. Now it changes in the upper grades, but basically they are not on any type of device.
That's crazy.
For the day.
Wealthy district?
Yes.
What did I tell you, right? Have you seen this too, Yasna? The wealthy districts are like, yeah. Yeah, interesting, right?
TEA guidelines for pre-K are 10 minutes or less of screen time per day. And when you think of screen time, that would consider us looking at an interactive display, at a projector, anything like that would be involved in screen time. So if you are doing centers or carpet time and you just having your interactive display or your projector running in the background, that goes towards screen time as well, which is a consideration.
And I think that's under the health and safety guidelines. So I feel like that flew a little bit under the radar for technology departments and paying attention to the.
So even like if you're using a digital manipulative tool and you're showing work, that counts as like screen time.
Yeah.
Or if you pull up a student's work and show it, that's going to count as anything projected up.
Technically, yeah.
I call baloney on that rule.
That
is baloney.
It's TEA, not me.
Ban baloney. Okay.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Yeah. And wrapping into that, the screen time concerns would also be that using technology well. And I'm not sure, kind of like Matt mentioned about measuring learning with the use of technology, that's not as easy to articulate or to show, but it's almost one of those things, you know it when you see it, when technology is being used well. So my last overarching topic was planning for the future. And being that innovation, being that visionary when it comes to technology. Because like I said just a second ago, we fund all of our technology through bond. And so you're looking at a 5-year bond cycle. I go back to 2021 when we put together that bond package, things like AI were not discussed. So how do you make plans for, some of the innovative tools and strategies that come along? So some of the innovations that I think we are doing well in terms of planning for the future is our superintendent actually guided us through creating we're calling it a visioning team when it comes to technology, and pulled us together and had us go through some activities to really look at what do we want technology to be in the future in our ISD. And some of that is so we're able to answer some of these parents' questions when they ask how technology are being used. Some of that is just to be different and differentiate ourselves. So we are currently we just started that this summer, and we are currently working through that right now. But that little committee, there's a handful of us from technology on there, but there's also professional learning, there's teaching and learning, special student services or special ed. CTE. I'm trying to think of everybody that's on that. So it is a very wide visioning committee for the district. And right now we're kind of coming up with those core beliefs around using technology in the district. We have a technology advisory committee, and we have had one historically, but it kind of fizzled. And I think some of that is because I always struggled with what do we want this committee to do? Because this is a committee of stakeholders that are not only internal, but also external. And so when you're talking about bringing in, families and parents, you want it to be purposeful for them. You want their feedback to be meaningful and their time to be well spent. So what does that look like? And this year, we were intentional about setting up 5 meetings, putting those topics out to begin with. Some of them were, maybe not as input heavy, like we had our first meeting last month where we talked about what was on the bond for technology. We actually have our second meeting tonight, and we're going to be talking about evaluating the role of technology in our ISD. So some of those discussions around screen time and how we're using technology and what that means. And then finally, pilots. We have a district who is real big on a pilot, but that also works to our advantage. So we are able to pilot different devices at a school. So maybe, at secondary, we have traditionally had Chromebooks. So now we have 2 junior highs that are trying out iPads. So we're trying different things to see what will set us apart in terms of using that technology well. And our challenges. I'm going to jump to these second 2 bullets right here first, because I think they play to some of the discussions that we have already had. Storytelling. Leilani asked, what do our parents think? How do our parents think? We have a big saying in this district that if you're not telling your story, they're telling it for you. They're filling in those blanks. So we're making a really big push, not just about technology use, but about everything, and being sure to tell the story of what is happening. And I'm going to give a shout out to our elementary principals, because I think they do a much better job of this than maybe at secondary. Just talking about what is happening at their campus, what are their kids doing, and showcasing that and highlighting it. And this is how they use the technology. or whatever the, the initiative is. So really telling that story so that it's not fill in the blank with what I think is happening. I mean, they're doing a lot of that on social media, filling in those blanks. The other one I want to talk about, to your point, is legislation. That is a huge challenge for us. I'm not going to, I want to say it's worse for us in Texas, but who knows? I've only ever worked in Texas. But just navigating the legislation and what it means to us and what changes we need to do, it's almost like we're playing catch up a lot of the time. The other two challenges is just that planning for future use. What is it going to look like? Honestly, that's why I like coming to the Learning Council, because you get some of those really big ideas that you can start to wrap your mind around and hopefully include that in your plans for the future. And then evaluating technology. We were a big proponent for many years in our district for the Bright Bite survey. Some of you may be familiar with it. Now defunct, and it of course had its challenges, but it was a way that we could regularly measure technology use, not just access and our infrastructure, but also in the classroom. And so we are still working to find that tool, that measurement tool that we can use, that we can kind of publish some of that data or that information about how technology is being used. So that is some of our other challenges. But with that said, I would love to hear from some of y'all. What were some of your challenges or innovations, whichever? Nobody, I don't know that anybody else raised their hand about artificial intelligence, so that's great. What are some of your other ones? Are you putting your hand up? Anybody want to share? Okay.
Leilani again. You guys aren't sharing right now, but I know you'll get your courage up. I will share what I see all across the country in other cities as I go out and I have visits with them like I'm having with you today. People are really concerned about the constraints. Like we talked earlier, Dr. Bolak, about high stakes testing. It's like a timetable that everyone has to march to. And at this time in the age of AI, it's becoming ridiculous because it's essentially the largest inequity we have. It's all humanity must march to the same drum in the same timetable, when we've known for like 50 years that even just boys and girls don't learn math and language at the same rate at the same age. Like we've known these things. We know that whole group lecture was disproven in the 1970s. Like there's stuff we know and we can't apply because of this legislative structure, right? Mm-hmm. So I would say nationally, that's our biggest problem. We are constrained by structure that is so onerous, we don't even see it anymore. We don't see structure. We have interiorized, that's the right way to say it, right? Into our own little worlds. And everything we try to change is us. This is a debilitating thing for our own mental health. Does that make sense? So that's my comment.
Well, and that makes me think of my Van Alstyne friend over here that we were talking about in our table. I don't know if you'd like to speak to that, about doing something different and being that first person or that first district to make that say your name in your district.
One of the things, I always kind of look around is the competition. We are now really have to worry about our competition because we are not the only educators on the block any longer, and public education is not the only thing. And if you think about it, we've been having this discussion since the first year I started teaching a few years ago. And so yeah, something like that. Yes. But it's just like, we've always thought we got to change what we're doing. And so there's got to have something looking towards the future, because if not, those companies that are and have figured out how to make a profit in public education are going to take the kids who want to learn and are your high end and take them away from us, and we'll be We'll have only the children who have no choice whose parents aren't involved, who are more difficult to educate, who do not understand. It'll be a different challenge in us when the kids leave. Thus, there goes our funding because we're based on the number of people we have in our seats. And so those are some of the interesting things that I believe AI is going to help us hopefully fix some of this.
It's hard to be the first to try something new and be the one to step out there. Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Well, let's all give her a big round of applause. Thank you so much.
Thank you.